Core Hydrate. Obviously, we talked about this a lot, and I've been drinking it a lot, so let's talk about what's inside of it. Now, we already did a flavor test. Everyone really wanted to know all about the different flavors, but we didn't get to talk about the ingredients within them. So if you're looking for the flavor test, already uploaded, go check that out. If you're here for ingredients, strap on in. We're gonna be talking about electrolytes today and what they do for your body, of course, and the extra ancillary ingredients added in around the electrolytes, as Hydrate is both an electrolyte powerhouse, but also a collection of some helpful ingredients that can help out with hydrating. Now, when you look at the side of the Hydrate box, or if you look at the back of the stick, you'll notice that the daily value section is bigger than the active section. And I think for good reason here, Hydrate is going to be a lot of electrolytes. Now, Core did not put the electrolytes in the active sections. You have to go through the daily value sections to kind of figure out where things are coming from, but it gives you a full dosage of what each electrolyte is going to be from these different sources, which is nice because it gives you an idea of the actual yields of them without having to do any math. Now, Hydrate is a bomb of electrolytes, so there's going to be a couple big dosages here, and we're going to talk about why we like these dosages so much and the ratios between them. So let's start from the top. Calcium. Now, calcium is obviously super important for bone health. It has some other athletic benefits as well. It's not super big, so I'm not going to go really far depth in here, but you will notice things like heartbeat regulation, nerve impulse conduction, blood pressure regulation, water balance regulation, cell division, immune function, energy and fat metabolism, and nutrient transport across cells as important parts of calcium. It's unlikely that you are deficient in calcium if you eat a normal diet, a healthy diet at that, but of course, we're going to throw some extra in here because calcium is important for everyone. But where the real importance starts, in my opinion, for pressing issues for athletes is going to be magnesium. Many humans and thus athletes are going to be magnesium deficient. It's super important for athletes. I cannot stress that enough. I know most people are onto the whole sodium help. I'm very thankful that so much of the industry has pushed pink salt for athletes. That's not where electrolyte needs ends. Magnesium is super important, as well as potassium, but I would kind of believe that magnesium is probably the most underutilized electrolyte for athletes. So let's talk about why. Magnesium is an important electrolyte that is involved in over 300 different enzymatic reactions in the body. This is anywhere from glycemic control to cellular energy production, arterial function, and of course 297 other ones. Now, magnesium deficiency can manifest as fatigue, insulin resistance, impaired cardiovascular function, which is kind of ironic, the fatigue part, because actual usage of magnesium can lead to a calming effect as well. I think that most athletes should strive to get more magnesium in their diet, to be honest with you. And in this product, we actually have 4 different types of magnesium: magnesium carbonate, magnesium citrate, magnesium biglycinate chelates, which is a trace mineral from Albion, and magnesium glycinate glutamine chelate. Again, another chelated trace mineral from Albion. Now, it's kind of funny because the original one, magnesium carbonate, is going to add a little bit of fizz to the drink, not like really full-on carbonated, but it does have a little bit of thickness to it in the texture. But particularly what we really want to see here are these chelated versions, the bisglycinate chelate and the glycinate glutamine chelate. Glycine is a great use for chelations. It absorbs really well in the small intestine, and that's why we chelate minerals. Minerals are not very absorbable for humans. They're not bioavailable almost at all. And so when we surround them by an amino acid that's bonded to them, that is a lot easier for us to absorb. As you can imagine, we love amino acids. We all do. And they're very easy for us to absorb, so they help the absorption of minerals. In total, we're getting 139 milligrams of elemental magnesium. That means we're actually getting 139 milligrams of magnesium. We're not getting all that other stuff in there that's not in this dosage. And this is a pretty strong dosage. It's not too much. It's not going to cause any kind of gastric distress. If you guys are familiar, the magnesium citrate in here, when taken in high doses, is really helpful for weight cuts because it causes a really easy flow out the back end of you and gets a lot of weight out of you very quickly. Now, from there, we get into zinc. Now, this is not a very popular sports ingredient, although many people will use ZMA. We've got 3 milligrams of it here, and it's going to be all zinc, bisglycinate, chelate, again, a trace chelated zinc, just like the magnesium we were just talking about. Now, zinc is a very, very powerful antioxidant, but it's a master mineral of the male endocrine system. Very important. Now, this is not a testosterone booster, so we don't need to talk about it all that much here. But between immune function, the antioxidant ability, and of course, testosterone boosting, it's important to note it's a very important mineral. From there, we get into chloride at 557 milligrams. Again, not a super sexy ingredient here, but these are going to be the backbone of what makes this product work so well. Now, chloride is often combined with other electrolytes like sodium, potassium, potassium, magnesium to form mineral salts. And that's going to be relatively well digested and absorbed, not as great as chelated. But there's actually a study called Chloride, the queen of electrolytes, which goes on to compare chloride to all the other ingredients and kind of calling it the queen in terms of the game of chess. It's important for stomach acid production. If you're deficient in chloride, it can impair the digestion of protein, which is obviously something that we don't want. And it is possible to be deficient in chloride, especially if you're eating all whole foods and if you are not listening to smart folk and going low sodium. Sodium is one of the easiest ways that we get chloride into our body. And so if you are low sodium because you're afraid of the high blood pressure or whatever people say these days to get you away from it, it's definitely possible that you are chloride deficient, and I would recommend you start eating some salt because it could very well help you with a lot of different functions in your body. That's just something to think about. But let's talk about these big powerhouse electrolytes. Sodium, the big one here. A lot of people are scared of, but for no good reason. We've got 350 milligrams of it here. Again, not a huge dose, so you really shouldn't have to worry about any kind of, some people get some weird effects if they take like, a gram plus of it at a time. You should be stretching out at least 2 grams a day, especially if you're an athlete sweating often. But we're getting this in sodium chloride, sodium citrate, and sodium bicarbonate. Now, this is a fairly good dose and a fairly nice group of different electrolytes here that are all going to be useful for us. Again, the bicarbonate is going to help out with a little bit of that. There's a little bit of fizz and thickness to it, but salt is super important overall. For one reason, we lose it when we sweat, and obviously we do that when we train, when most people are going to be drinking these. But if you are afraid of sodium, let me just note that in a recent study called High Salt Intake Detrimental for Not Only Blood Pressure but also for health, researchers found that harm from sodium didn't even start until you reach the intake of 5 grams per day. And they concluded that the low end of the healthy range and safe range was actually 3 grams above the 2 grams recommended that most people give. A study published in 2011 from the Journal of American Medicine showed that over 28,000 participants found actual sodium excretion under 3 grams a day increased the risk of hospitalization for congestive heart failure. And the study actually also found dosages up to 7 grams didn't even raise the risk of cardiovascular risk. Now, I don't need to keep convincing you guys that sodium is not dangerous. This is where I seal things off and just say sodium is literally required for muscle contractions. If you sweat it out during your workout and you do not put it back in, you're not going to have any to contract your muscles further down. Sodium is necessary for that contraction, and also the lacking of it will seriously impede on your ability to get a pump in the gym. So not only will you not be performing, but you're definitely not going to be looking good or seeing the results you want from your training. Now, what is probably almost as important as sodium is the ratio between sodium and potassium. So next we have potassium to talk about, and then we'll stop talking about electrolytes and get into some active ingredients here. Although really the point that I'm trying to make here is that these electrolytes are active ingredients. 530 milligrams of potassium here. I love this dosage. We've got 4 different versions: potassium citrate, coconut water concentrate, potassium chloride, potassium glycinate chelate. Tracks again from Albion. Now, we often note that potassium is a shortfall nutrient, meaning that most people are not getting enough of it. Most people are not talking about getting enough of it. Until recently, we actually had decent doses of it in our diets, but as we moved over to processed foods, the sodium went up, potassium went down. And again, that ratio is very important. Potassium is going to mostly focus on cardiovascular health. And so instead of obsessing on the dose of sodium, what I recommend is you attempt to focus on the ratio of potassium being higher than sodium. Several studies demonstrate that hypertension and cardiovascular disease are associated with high sodium to potassium ratios. Many fail to fix this. There's actually a sodium-potassium interaction that's heavily involved in pathogenesis of hypertension. So work on having your potassium to sodium be like a 2-to-1 ratio. There's some nuance into where it is. Some say 2.5 to 1. Let's just focus on getting it higher than sodium at first, because most people are not even really supplementing or focusing on potassium at all. Core Hydrate is a great place to start. Further, what's nice about that is that potassium actually leads to vasodilation. That's why a lot of products like Core Fury and Core Pump actually do have potassium in them. And this is going to be a big part of making sure you get that pump and maintain it. Now, as we get into the ingredients here, we're going to start off with a gram of taurine. Taurine, I talk about all the time. I talk about how wonderful it is. I talk about how it's not a bad thing to have around caffeine. And I talk about how helpful it can be for any athlete. There's literally an entire meta-analysis on how much it helps endurance and performance athletes. From there, we move into coconut water concentrate. This was one of the main sources of potassium. It's going to bring a lot of different trace minerals, and it's also going to make the water taste great. But when we get into some really hard-hitting ingredients, especially these trademarked ones, we talk about Elevate ATP, an ancient peat and apple extract. This is going to help your body produce more ATP, which is the most basic unit of energy that our cells use to perform. Now, like magnesium, a deficiency in ATP will manifest as lethargy. In 2016, a study comparing 150 milligrams of this ingredient, what's in this product, for 8 weeks significantly made them stronger, measured by progress on the barbell squat and deadlift. And we love to see them using those actual exercises instead of just a leg press or extension, right? Their vertical jump speed and their power also improved. So obviously we're combating deficiencies, but really here we're looking for an increase in performance and moving forward rather than dealing with deficiencies. With a lot of lot of Core's products, we're really looking at high-end athletes, just like those folks that we know from the actual brand, or the face, Doug Miller. From there, we see concentrates, which is another trace mineral complex, kind of similar to the coconut water. This is going to bring in trace minerals, and that kind of denotes the idea of these minerals that we seemingly see in minuscule amounts. But don't get this wrong, they're crucial for health. Now, honestly, it's impossible to talk about the 72 different minerals in this ingredient and coconut. It's why I'm not going to get far into it. But we're talking about stuff like sulfate, lithium, boron, stuff that's actually required for living. They also can help with really basic things like our endocrine system, our moods. Lithium's very big for balancing mood. Boron, like zinc, can help out a lot with testosterone, lowering SHBG and boosting free testosterone. But we close off this product with one of my favorite ingredients in the market, Synactive. Synactive is a natural senolytic that's going to get rid of old cells in the body and help bring in new ones. It lowers post-workout inflammation markers, and it also lowers perceived exertion when you take it pre-workout going into a workout. We're going to see better VO2 maxes and better performance overall because we're getting out those old cells and we're moving new ones in to keep that inflammation low and the performance high. Overall, I've been loving taking these products. They're super, super great tasting. They're very effective. I love that Core does not pull punches with their dosages. As always, guys, I got to say, I got these products for free, but I hope this was helpful in helping you with your buying decisions. Core makes awesome ingredients. Core makes awesome products, and we're super proud to be supporting them. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.